insight and perspective is political analyst John Mccaa. John, it is great to have you with us. You are a veteran journalist with WFAA in Dallas. You have been following politics for decades. I am curious, a very long time. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this midterms. So what are Democrats and Republicans promising?
Well, it's interesting, you know, Matt Rinaldi, who is in the North Texas area, who is the chairman of the Republican Party in Texas, has said that they really want to get those three congressional seats that we're talking about, is looking for some serious improvements in terms of Latino votes going for Republicans. So in terms of the Republicans, those are the kinds of things we want to see. The Democrats are saying, look, we have been energized. In the last 10 years, in fact, they haven't seen any kind of energy like they claim to have seen in the last few months, registering people to vote. So from them, we're hearing there should be a huge turnout. And the question is that what we're seeing?
Right. Is that what we're seeing? And that brings me to early voting numbers. We've got the latest numbers. What are those numbers telling you?
Yeah, you know, the numbers really don't bear that out. I mean, again, we're talking about early voting, but in terms of early voting, you would think that those numbers would show some serious increases, and particularly in the Rio Grande Valley, you don't really see that. We have seen some people come in. I voted early. I live in the Rio Grande Valley. I voted early. But the fact of the matter is, if they did register all these new people, if they showed up today, maybe that's one thing. But normally for Democrats, early voting is going to be a key place where you're going to see that kind of an increase.
Right. And it's interesting because we have millions of Texans who have registered to vote, but in terms of those who have actually voted or those who voted early, that's a fraction of the number of registered voters.
Yeah, you know, again, I say Rio Grande Valley because that looks like that's the place all the eyes are right now. There are something like 690,000 registered voters in the four Rio Grande Valley counties. 145,000 people voted early. You'd like to see more than that if you're a Democrat, in terms of if you really have people energized and they're coming in. And again, for Democrats, these early votes are key. So what we see so far makes you wonder where those folks are, but they could be showing up today. You never know.
We will find out. That is one thing we know. You've mentioned the Valley a couple of times. All eyes are on the Valley. It's like it's the epicenter of the midterms right now. Everyone's talking about it. But I really want to understand your thoughts about what's happening in South Texas. It has historically been a blue stronghold, and it appears that that could be loosening quite a bit.
Yeah, you know, Democrats have really had a strong hold on South Texas for forever. And what's happened recently, it's interesting because what happened with Donald Trump was he attracted more Latinos than I think people expected, particularly when you considered some of the things that he had said. But he attracted more, and that number seems to be continuing to grow. And now we have three pretty solid candidates who are Republican, who are running in the three congressional districts right now. Now, so the question is, what is attracting their attention? And one of the things that we're seeing all of them run on is, of course, crime, which we hear across the country, border security, which we hear across the country. Also, faith and their concerns about whether or not the Democrats have shifted from traditional Latino values. And that seems to be something that you hear quite a bit from people who have gone to the polls who are Latino in the Valley.
We are hearing more about the role that faith is playing in voters' decisions. Talk more about that. Break that down for us.
Yeah, you know, we traditionally think about the Valley and the Catholic Church. But Latino evangelicals across the Valley have been strongly involved in this particular election cycle. I know that Mayra Flores has really made that part of what she's been talking about. And if you look at the campaigns of all three Republicans in that, they've all made faith a key element of how they're campaigning. So this is something that we see that you don't normally see. Now, I will emphasize this, though. Unlike white evangelical voters, because you're a Latino evangelical voter, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a Republican. But there does seem to be this idea that, again, evangelicals who are Latino in the Valley really look like they're pushing very much to get their parishioners much more involved in this. And the ones that I've seen are saying, look, you need to vote for your values, and traditional values for Latinos, they're saying,
yes,
are not what you're seeing from the party that normally says they support you.
Yeah. So at this point, it appears that it's not about vote for your party, not even vote for the individual. You are voting for your values.
Well, that's true. That's true. And I should add another mistake that I think that we in the media have made for a long time is there is this belief that the Latino vote is monolithic, that everybody thinks the same,
Sure.
and that's simply not the case. And that is clearly being pointed out with this election cycle, that there are, in fact, Latinos who are conservative. And I separate that from being Republican or being Trump supporters, but they're being pretty clear about how they feel. I was in McAllen during the Christmas holidays, and every Saturday driving up and down 10th Street, which is a big street, huge rallies for Trump supporters.
Okay.
And so anyone who wants to say that that's not the case in that area probably hasn't been looking very closely at what's been going on.
Yeah, hasn't been there lately, right? Because things change, they evolve over time. Oh, yeah. And I think that's why, you know, Republicans and Democrats have really zeroed in on South Texas, putting so much money, you know, towards that area, and also sending so many celebrities and top politicians to that area.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because lately, just this week, former President Clinton has been there. Let's see, Kevin McCarthy's been there. Newt Gingrich has been there. In the past, Nikki Haley has been there. So there have been several folks that have come to the Valley. The governor started his campaign in the Valley. He's going to end his campaign in the Valley. So right now we are seeing in the Rio Grande Valley an emphasis, an attention that really is most unusual.
Most unusual, unprecedented, and we will see once all of the votes are counted what that looks like and how that changes the landscape for our state and our representation even in Congress. So it will be quite interesting for sure. So Republicans are touting this red wave that's going to sweep through there, very confident about the midterm elections. Do you think they have reason to be very confident?
Well, you know, I always like to judge parties and candidates based upon what they promise. So we don't have all the election results now, the polls now, but what they're promising, what the Republicans are promising, is that we're going to see something dramatic and new and different coming out of the Valley. So we'll see if that's the case. The Democrats are saying we're going to see something new and dramatic and different in terms of their energized voters coming out of the Valley. We're going to see if that happens. So in the next 3 or 4 hours, we're going to find out if one knows what they're talking about and the other one doesn't.
Absolutely. And speaking of announcements and what we're going to find out, I can't let you get away without talking about former President Donald Trump making an announcement that he's going to make an announcement next week, a week from the midterm elections. What are your thoughts about that? What's the strategy behind that?
Well, people still wonder if he's going to run for president. I would suspect that based upon what happens tonight, if he hasn't made a decision, he will finally make that decision. But he's got some pretty tall competitors in terms of the governor of Florida, how he's going to do tonight, the governor of Texas, how he'll do tonight. So a lot of it will depend on that.
Yeah. To be determined.
Oh, yeah.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you for your time and your expertise, John.
Thank you.
Of course. Now, as we've been saying, Spectrum News has you